Good morning, Internet, and people watching this video. It's good to have you here. It's been a minute since I've uploaded a video, so I figured I'd jump on real quick and do something this morning. I actually have an exciting episode coming up. I'm interviewing Pastor Rich Lusk. We were supposed to do it this morning, so this time was blocked out on my calendar anyway, and his internet is down. So we're pushing to hopefully tomorrow. But I figured I set the time aside. I might as well jump on and get something. And I had someone in my church ask me a question about courtship and dating, and I figured it's Valentine's Day is coming up here in a couple days, so why not do a quick video giving some advice to young men about pursuing young women. And this may not be all that profound, and I'm just kind of shooting from the hip. But the thought that this young man was asking about was there was, I think C.R. Wiley had said something, and I haven't seen what he said, but essentially was encouraging men to not talk too much when they're talking to a woman, and not like be kind of aloof, I think was sort of the exhortation or encouragement from Wiley. Again, I could be totally off on that because I haven't actually seen what he said. But this guy was trying to think about how to apply that. And as we were talking, this was on Sunday, the thing that occurred to me was something I heard Jason Cherry say, or excuse me, Jason Farley. He was on Cannon's on Shannon. Chocolate Knox has a podcast. I think it's called like Knox Unplugged or something. And he had Jason Farley on his show, and they were talking about different things. And Jason made this point about the word submission. He basically just broke it down, said there's two, sub and mission. And sub just means under, and mission means mission, right? And so submission for a woman is just that. It's coming under a man's mission, right? And what a profound thought. And I think it has a lot of clear implication to how we approach courtship. If you're a man who is looking to find a wife, how does that happen? And I think the way it happens, and I think this is more and more the case the older you get, right? I think when you're younger, it's a different phase of life, and there's less awareness of some of these things, but it becomes more and more focused as you get older. When you're young, I think it's still all of the same things apply, but it's happening on a more subconscious level. So this is what I'll say about it, and then maybe I can try to unpack it a little further. Basically, what I'm saying is that a woman is looking not so much at how handsome a guy is, or how successful a guy is necessarily, or how compatible a guy is. That's not really, I don't think, what's primarily in view for a woman. And again, I think this is happening both consciously and subconsciously. I think what's mostly happening is she's asking herself, is this a mission that I want to sign on to? Am I on board with this guy's mission? And that makes sense because of how God's created women. God made Adam, gave him a task, and then made Eve and made Adam her task. Like he gave him a helper that was suitable to him for the task that he's been given. And so this is how God built women, is they are designed to be oriented towards their husband and towards his task. And so I think any woman who's looking at a potential husband is asking about his mission. Is this a mission that I'm on board with? And so I think there's that can be really tangible, like specifically what's he doing with his life, what's his job, what's his direction. And I think that becomes more of an issue probably later in life when you're actually old enough to have kind of a career track. I think for folks like me, and I saw Michael Foster posted that he and his wife got married young as well. Bethany and I were, she was 19, I was 21 when we got married. The For Bethany, I think it wasn't. Oh, I definitely am 100% excited about the direction Larson's life is going and the mission that he's on. Because I didn't have a mission, except that I was charging hard after whatever it was I was doing, right? So when Bethany and I started dating, I mean, we were really young, but I was the head of our public high school's chapter of a Christian club. I was all about that. I was the president of the frisbee and footbag club at the school, and I was all about that. I was big into music, and I was all about that. I was in bands, and I was playing coffee shops and doing things like that. And I was serving in my church in music, and also with the youth group. I was helping teach and organize different things. And so all of those things, none of those are things that I'm really doing anymore, right? My life has that's way in my past. But I think what Bethany saw in me was a guy who had things he was pursuing, and was pursuing it with enthusiasm, and with skill. And I think she saw that characteristic in me, and felt like, hey, this is a guy I can follow. This is a guy I can submit to, right? So anyway, that's so I think to help a guy, let's say you're heading into a court. Let's say you're heading into a singles, event where you're going to be interacting with a bunch of different, young adult singles that are looking for a potential spouse, and that's clearly in view. My advice would be to not go in trying to impress with the things that you've accomplished, to not go in talking about yourself and about everything you've accomplished. It's not about just being super, super nice or super, super spiritual. I think it's about having confidence in your own skin. You know who you are. You're not trying to be something different. You have the wisdom to know what kinds of things you're good at and what kind of direction you need to be going with your life, and you're pursuing that with intentionality and purpose, and with some success, right? And so I think that's the kind of signals that you're trying to give to a woman. And obviously, those are the things that need to be true. But it's not, hey, I'd be a really nice guy, to be around, or I'd be really super spiritual. I mean, ultimately, this is cliche, but ultimately, you do want to be yourself, because you're not going to be able to keep up whatever act it is that you're putting on in that moment for the rest of your life. So I think you want to be yourself at some level, but obviously it's a special circumstance, and you're trying to make the best impression you can. And I think part of it's proving that you are able to handle yourself well in a uncomfortable, difficult circumstance. Because Lord knows, marriage is full of those. You are, when you get married, you're marrying you're kind of plowing into the unknown together, and there's going to be challenges and difficulties. And so this is a great example, kind of a pressure cooker example of does this man have the confidence to walk in and carry himself well, and not get super flustered and super intimidated, and handle it in a way that's natural and doesn't seem like really unusual and weird and put on. So I think it'd be about being being so I think Wiley's point about, I think, not talking so much is I think more about, you're not laying out a resume. You know, you're not to a potential employer, and you're not, you know, you're there to to interact and see if there's chemistry, and that needs to be organic. You know, either there's chemistry or there's not. You know, and you need to be, you need to do yourself as many favors as you can to try to not let your bad personality traits get in the way of the chemistry potential. So I think you do want to be on your best behavior, which again is something you have to do for the rest of your life. You know, in marriage, you don't get married and go, cool, I get to stop trying, to be, to trying to impress my wife, trying to pursue my wife, trying to make my wife feel like she's special. Those are actually habits that you have to develop. And so if you can't do that, you know, so on the flip side of what I've been saying, if you show up to this event and you are like in sweatpants and you're like, hey, this is who I am, take it or leave it, that sends a signal that you don't care. And that if you can't, in this circumstance, step up and put your best foot forward, you know, how much worse are you going to be when you know the honeymoon's over and it's just the two of you, you know. So I do think a woman wants to be pursued, wants to have a man take initiative. So that would be the other advice is don't be passive. Don't be sitting there just waiting to be talked to. You know, I think going over and taking and asking questions. You know, I mean, I think this is one of the best things you can do is ask questions. Hey, tell me about yourself. Where are you from? What are you doing? What's your background? What's your family into? You know, I don't think it's a bad idea to sit down and write out a list of potential questions to ask and conversation starters. That's not a bad thing to do. Rehearse, you know, prepare. I can tell you, I can confess that I've done this even after, what is it now? Almost 18 years of marriage. I still sometimes, before we go on a date, and I take my wife on a date just about every week, I'll still sometimes think through the kinds of questions I want to ask while we're on a date. Because I don't want to just sit there and fritter our time away. I want to make hay and have it be a time where we're going deeper, you know, in our relationship, and I want to fill my wife's tank. I want to give her an opportunity to lay out what's on her mind and what she's thinking about, and so that takes preparation, right? So I will go into the, sometimes, you know, Fridays is usually when we go on dates. Sometimes Friday afternoon I sit down and go, okay, what kind of questions do I want to talk through with Bethany tonight? And sometimes it's silly stuff, like, you know, stuff that we just never get a chance to talk about. But again, so I think putting your best foot forward, preparing for that, and pursuing these women, not like chasing her around the room if she's trying to avoid you, but not waiting to be talked to. You know, going and, hey, I'm Larson. Good to meet you. Tell me about yourself. And then again, when she asks about you, it's not like, you know, let me just try to tell you all the best things about myself and all the best features and all the best accomplishments. Because I think I heard Rich Luss say this in a sermon. I was listening to a couple of his sermons in preparation for our conversation, and I think he was quoting. I can't remember who he's quoting, but the point he was making was that somebody whose story about themselves is doesn't find any fault in their story. Like when they tell their story, it's just a story of one success after another. Is like that's a indicator of somebody who lacks wisdom, lacks self awareness, and is dishonest. If any of us are honest about our journey, it's mostly just lots of failures. I thought I was going to do this, and I failed, and then I tried to do this, and I failed. Um, I I accidentally fell into this, and it worked, and I actually really like it. Um, but I think that's the kind of integrity that a woman's looking for. Is not somebody who's just a charmer, who you can't tell if they're telling the truth or not. You want somebody who's honest and so what else? What other things? If I was going into something like this, what else would I be thinking about? I think talking about your mission. When you get the opportunity, here's what I'm doing with my life right now. These are the things I hope to accomplish. This is the direction I'm headed, and I love it. I'm excited about it. I'm passionate about it. I think I'm making an impact on the world. I don't think I'm the next Elon Musk or whatever, but I think I'm in my sphere. I think I'm making an impact, and I intend to continue to grow and stretch myself and take more territory. That right there, again, whether you're a garbage man or you're an astrophysicist, I think for a woman, that's what's attractive is a man who is aware of themselves and their skills and their strengths and is deploying them in the best way they can, with some humility, with some with a lot of diligence, a lot of integrity. So I think that's the main theme of I think what you're trying to accomplish is you're trying to give a glimpse of the mission, a glimpse of the fact that you're a man on a mission. That's your job. You're going out to take dominion, to grow the kingdom of God, to grow your kingdom, and to make an impact on the world. And this is how you're doing it. And it may be something that is really difficult to explain, and you obviously don't want to get too deep into the woods, but be ready to explain that. I think a lot of guys make the mistake, and I tell this to married men all the time. I think we make a huge mistake when we don't include our wives in our work, and when we don't. And I think that applies just as much to astrophysicists. And I say that, I've said astrophysicists twice now. I live in a community full of astrophysicists. So my church has many astrophysicists, and that's an actual thing in our community. It's a huge mistake for you to presume that your wife has no interest whatsoever in what you're doing, or it's all completely going to be over her head. It's not. She may not be equipped to do the math, right? But there are all manner of political dynamics to your work. There are all manner of social dynamics to your work. There are sort of career path components that you don't need a PhD in physics to be able to think through. As a matter of fact, your PhD in physics may blind you. You may struggle with understanding the bigger picture because you're so focused on the task. So I think this is one of the gifts that God's uniquely blessed women with, is the ability to sort of perceive the relational side of work, and also, because they're not in the weeds necessarily of your work, like your day-to-day work, they can kind of see patterns that may be obscure to you, because you're so head down. But she can kind of see it from an outsider and go, it seems like you're still, this same thing keeps happening. And so anyway, I would just say, if you're an astrophysicist going into one of these kinds of events that you should go in ready to kind of explain how you got there, the structure of the organization, where you fit into that, and how how you see that changing in the future. And so anyway, I'll stop there. I'm sure there's more that could be said about that, but I hope that that's at least gives some ideas to young men who or older men, who are pursuing women and thinking about how do I make the best impression in a first meeting. What am I trying to accomplish? And I guess all advice to you again. When it comes to if you walk out of that event having talked to several women, I think so which one should you pursue, or should you continue to pursue? I mean, I think first is, was there anybody that there was obvious chemistry, where it seemed like when you guys talked, it was easier to talk, it was more pleasant to talk. She seemed genuinely interested in what you were talking about. I think those are the things that those are the signals you're looking for most of all. I think everything else is that if you haven't heard me say this, I don't think God made one man for each woman and one woman for each man. Obviously, He's sovereign, so He knows in His foreknowledge who we're going to marry. But I don't think that because of that, it means that there is ultimately only one person you could marry that would be perfect for you. I think there's any number of thousands of women that you'd be able to be very happily married to. And so if you are going into it looking for the one, I don't think you're thinking, I think you're setting yourself up for error. And there was a podcast recently, a guy in my church listens to the rabbi David Lappin, I believe is his name. And I've listened to a couple of his podcasts. Fun guy to listen to. But he had a whole podcast about this recently, about this lie that there's only one. And the reason why he emphasized the importance of dispelling this lie is that that when the road gets rocky, a couple years in or a couple months in or whatever, there's a temptation to go, oh, I think I married the wrong person. This wasn't the one. I thought it was the one, but it's not the one. And he was just trying to say, you got to dispel that right out of the gates. Marriage is going to be hard, and you're going to go through difficulties, and you didn't marry the one because there isn't a one. Doug Wilson often says that men are to choose their love and love their choice. This is what God's done with us. He's chosen His people, and then He loves His people. And as men, we got to choose who it is we're going to love, and then we've got to love that choice we made, and not look back and go, did I make the wrong choice? Once it's been made, and it's time to move forward with the duty of loving, which involves sacrifice and everything else. So you're not going into this asking, is this the one? You're going into this asking, is this somebody that I can enjoy being married to, and that I can love and devote myself to, and so you're not trying to find out if this is the absolute perfect person. So okay, that was a little rabbit trail, but hit me up in the comments if you have any questions. Maybe I can upload a second video here on this topic before Valentine's Day for the ladies, perhaps. But yeah, tell me if you've got any thoughts or questions, or think anything I said was really stupid. Have a great rest of your day. Thanks for tuning in, and we'll talk to you later.